YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And in this video, I got my 2019 NFL award picks, running through 11 different awards and giving you not only my winner, but my top three in each of those awards. And you guys actually voted for the same 11 awards. And that video of the viewers' picks that most of you guys voted for is up on our other channel, the Goat House Plus. Two channels now here at the Goat House. So please subscribe to both. You get videos from both there. And in case anything ever happens with one, we have the other one. So you guys know where to find us. You also can find us on Twitter, Goat House NFL. There's a link in the description. Constant NFL talk and channel updates as well. And the Patreon has a bunch of extra content like score predictions, Discord chat, mock drafts, always being updated. But please help us reach that 40K subscriber goal on both channels. Link in the description and in the comments of every single video for all these different platforms here at the Goat House. But to my award picks, again, the other video on the Goat House Plus has your guys' award picks. But the MVP, pretty obvious. My MVP of the 2019 season goes to Lamar Jackson, the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. Pretty obvious choice here. So he gets the number one spot, and then we see who I rank second and third. A lot of good players, obviously, but went with top three for all these awards. I gave it to Michael Thomas for number two. And because it's a record-breaking season, and he's been so dominant. Facing the double teams, and having two different quarterbacks in there. There was some doubt with Teddy Bridgewater, not for myself, but that'll be a big step down. But Michael Thomas really helped to make sure there was really no step down there when Drew Brees got hurt, because he's that dominant, and he was that dominant this year. The clear best receiver in football for this year, and we may have to revisit who we think is the best receiver in football in general, which everyone's been locked in, DeAndre Hopkins or Julio Jones, whoever it may be. But now, got to take a look at Michael Thomas here, and he very well could be the number one, going forward. Russell Wilson was number three, pretty close between 2 and 3. Russell Wilson, for a good portion of the beginning of the season there, was the number one pick, the number one, MVP in the ladders here for pretty much everybody. But Lamar ended up passing on Michael Thomas, continuing the dominant performances. I guess passed him up, but then looking at what the Seahawks do too, a big part of their game plan is running the ball. I mean, they want to run the ball, they want to run it down your throat. And it's weird sometimes because it almost feels like they feel like they need to do that. But you have Russell Wilson, who can, I think could throw it 40-plus times a game and put up the best stats in the NFL. So basically what I'm getting at is I think if they used Russell Wilson like some teams use their quarterback or give him the opportunities, I think he very easily could take this award pretty much every year. But it is hard to top Lamar Jackson. That's why he got it. I mean, we've never seen a quarterback like that. Dominant performance, not only running but throwing too, just putting up touchdowns and insane numbers every single week. And you look at the Ravens, arguably the best team in football all year, and this is the most valuable player, and the most valuable player, and on top of it, on the best team here. So no brainer. Lamar Jackson was my pick. Let's see who you guys picked in your top three in that other video, the Viewers Awards, which is on the Goat House Plus. Link in the description for that channel. On to my offensive MVP. So the best non-quarterback is the offensive MVP here. I went with Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, number one. And 2, 3, I was back and forth on. Derrick Henry gets number 2. And Christian McCaffrey, running back of the Panthers, gets number 3. So I talked about Michael Thomas. He was number 2 even in my MVP rankings. And we've seen a receiver never won the award. So it's pretty obvious that Michael Thomas was going to be number 1 for my non-quarterback MVP. Dominant performance all year long. And I very well could be calling him the best receiver in football, like in general, and he hasn't really been part of that discussion in the past. He's been known as a very good one, borderline elite one, but, now he's in that discussion for sure. And Derrick Henry 2 and Christian McCaffrey 3, it was tough splitting those guys up. It was so close. Christian McCaffrey was more dominant early in the year. Derrick Henry more dominant down the stretch, and Derrick Henry led the NFL in rushing yards, which I'm not all about the stats, but that's kind of a bonus to go along with it. And then McCaffrey, putting up all those numbers and being so productive in both the running and the passing game. So it's kind of back and forth. But when I think awards, especially with the MVP next to it, I think how the team does and how the player helps the team kind of plays a part. if you take away McCaffrey from the Panthers, yeah, he carries them a lot, but not the best season from the Panthers. Derrick Henry made his presence, kind of known and helped, a past struggling quarterback Ryan Tannehill grow even more and help the Titans team get to the playoffs because teams feared the run. I think it opened up the pass. The same thing happened to the Panthers. Teams may fear Christian McCaffrey, and because of the other players, I guess, on the team, they couldn't really open things up in the in the passing game. I guess it's opinion based. Well, it definitely is. But for me, for awards, I think it plays a small part in how good the team is as well. Like I'll do my, all my rankings in the very near future. I'll do a top 100 players of the 2019 season, like I did last year. Can't wait to do that. But maybe in a list like that, I haven't made it yet, but maybe in a list like that, McCaffrey could be higher than Derrick Henry because that's just the top 100 players in the NFL, just based on your performance in the regular season. When I look at the awards, for some reason, I think that, how the team played, I think plays a part because you're not going to give these MVPs. The MVPs are never, the award winners are really never players that are on a struggling team, it seems like. And I think there's a reason for that. So, best non-quarterback, I got Michael Thomas, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. You guys had different on yours, so make sure to check out that video on the Goat House Plus. Defensive MVP, if you've been following us all year, I feel very strongly about Za'Darius Smith being the best defensive player in football this year. Didn't have to think much about it either. The most dominant player on the Packers team, and it's pretty crazy that they have Aaron Rodgers, they have Aaron Jones, who was very dominant this year, and they have all those offenses. To me, Za'Darius Smith was the most important and most dominant player on the Packers team, and he was the best defensive player in the NFL because what he brought to the field. He was in, when other teams game plan for the Packers, this year, the number one priority, like who to game plan for, who you're watching out for, is Za'Darius Smith. And I can tell you that's a fact. Just watching this guy play and what he does, he's in the heads of the other coaching staff, the offensive coaching staff. He's in the heads of the quarterback, the offensive line. Adjusting plays really can't fix the situation. We've seen him rush from the inside, rush from the outside. He'll pretty much line up everywhere, and he wins pretty much everywhere. He's a good tackler in the run game, top tier in quarterback pressures. Usually these types of guys that kind of move around spots and kind of help their teammates get sacks because all the offensive linemen are worried about, shifting over to him because he's rushing from a different spot. Usually those types of guys don't get the production themselves. They get some, but they don't get a whole bunch themselves. So Za'Darius Smith had an insane amount of production as well. I don't know if I've ever seen something quite like this. I'm not saying he had the best defensive, performance in NFL history in a single season. Not saying that, but at the same time, I don't think we've quite, seen anything quite like this. I would compare him to the new Melvin Ingram, but I think he's a little more freaky and he has more production. It's a very unique player, and I guess I got a soft spot for that type of player. A type of player that really gets in the heads and inside the game plan of the other team and dominates from multiple different positions. Everybody has their specific position. If you move them, in a different spot, how good are they going to be? A similar spot, but how good are they be? This is a guy that's proven he can do so much in so many different spots. So it was a no-brainer for me. He was my defensive MVP on the 2019 season. TJ Watt gets my number 2 spot. All kinds of production. Steelers' defense is what kept them alive. Without that defense, this was one of the worst teams in football, but they were very close to the playoffs, and their defense played well enough to make the playoffs. And a big reason is because of TJ Watt with a dominant performance, lit up, the stat sheet production-wise, was everywhere too. Everyone's going to look at the sacks, but, you can look at the other moments too. Pass deflections, dropping back too, getting interceptions. He does everything, and he's a freakish talent at a young age already. So he's at number 2. Stephon Gilmore, number 3, clear best corner in football. And you have all these corners, like this guy's a really good corner because he's athletic. This guy's a really good corner because he's really physical at the line. This guy's a really good corner because he has the technique. He has the hips. This guy's a really good corner because he's able to maybe read the receiver and the quarterback at the same time, not just reading one. And now you combine all of those things and you put them into one person, and that one person is Stephon Gilmore, and that is why he's the best corner in football. If Jalen Ramsey's pretty much right there, you just kind of want to see more and know and less of the nonsense from Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey could very well be the best corner, but at this time, there's only one right answer to that. It's Stephon Gilmore. Dominant season for him. The Patriots defense is one of the top defenses in football because they're playmakers, mainly in their secondary, and I think it starts with Stephon Gilmore. Even though maybe there's some other guys out there that may have got their hands on the ball more, it's because teams fear Stephon Gilmore so much. So the cornerback gets number 3. I think corner is harder to play than some of these pass rush spots. Maybe, and that's, again, another reason why Za'Darius Smith's at the top, because, I'll say corner's for sure harder to play than in a typical edge rusher. But we're talking about a guy at the top there that plays multiple positions and is able. It's just crazy. I don't know if I've seen a season like that. But with that all being said, pass rush is way more important. Right now it's the second most important thing in football behind quarterback play. And you can argue offensive line play in there who have to deal with the pass rushers. So that's why the pass rushers maybe get the edge over Gilmore. It is tough leaving a lot of guys out. The next guy up would be Shaq Barrett. I could sit here and list off a whole bunch of guys, but that would be the next guy. It's tough because a lot of good defensive performances this year, especially in an offensive league now. For Offensive Rookie of the Year, this is weird because it ended up being a no-brainer. It's no question it's A.J. Brown. The dominant season he had, the way he lifted up the Titans' passing game, and it's one of those guys where the quarterback doesn't have to do a whole bunch. Even though Ryan Tannehill had a hell of a year, he did a whole bunch. But it's one of those guys you can just give a quick slant or a screen pass to, and he could take it the distance. It is quite amazing what he's able to do. I had this guy 18th overall on my big board. Somehow the Titans got him in the second round, and not even early in the second round. He is number 1, and I say it's weird because pretty much the whole year it was Josh Jacobs versus Kyler Murray. It's probably going to be Josh Jacobs. Nothing else is going to happen. And then A.J. Brown in crunch time just took it away. And to me, it's pretty clear. Josh Jacobs sitting out some games, I guess, didn't help, so that was unfortunate. But he gets second. He had the lead most of the year, or the first half of the year, I should say. Dominant season, was able to get the Raiders' run game going, which they desperately needed, but they also needed to open up their passing game. And to do that, maybe the easiest way to do that is to get a legit run game so teams could, you can keep defenses on their toes. You don't know what's coming at them because they have a solid run game. They may throw it here, they may run it here, and Josh Jacobs helped them do that. Passing game's starting to take a tumble at the end of the season, but Josh Jacobs had a dominant year. Kyler Murray, a little iffy earlier in the year, but then he had his dominant performances there. I'd say the iffy games, down the stretch were just because he was hurt, he was playing hurt, or they had to take him out of games. But he had some really good performances, upset some teams. And, you see what they, a lot of the season, there was not too much run game. They actually got some things going with Kenyon Drake down the line. But teams, basically when you game plan for the Cardinals, they're throwing a lot. They're going to throw on every play, and Kyler Murray's still able to do what he was able to do there. So Kyler Murray definitely one to watch out for the future. That goes without saying. But those are my top 3 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. For the Defensive Rookie of the Year, I got Nick Bosa number 1. No surprise there, but Josh Allen was pretty close. In terms of production, they're right next to each other. Maybe statistically, I'm not a huge stat guy. I don't really look at the exact stats. But Josh Allen could have been a little bit, better than maybe in some people's eyes in that category. Nick Bosa, the impact plays that he made, there was a little more impact plays, impact pressures that helped lead his team to, the first seed and some dominant wins with their dominant defense this year. And then Josh Allen, of course, number 2, really good season. I thought the Jags stole him where they picked him. He thought he would come off the board maybe in the top 3 even. And then the 3 choice was pretty tough. A lot of guys to choose from. Both linebackers, Devin White, Devin Bush, and then Max Crosby, even maybe a guy like Juan Thornhill. But I went with Devin White. You saw the Buccaneers early in the year. You could argue one of the worst defenses in football. And then as soon as Devin White, he had a little injury in there. And then as soon as he was good to go, you saw the improvement of this Bucs defense, and every time you watched a good play from the Bucs defense, it was Devin White doing what we knew he would do coming out of LSU, just flying around the field. He's doing everything. He's back in coverage. He's in the quarterback's face. He's always making plays. So I was really, really impressed by that. Big reason for the Bucs, later season run, because they always had the offense. The Bucs were always had, even in the beginning of the year, they had a bunch of offense and they had the turnover situation. In the second half of the year, it was the same thing. People were saying the Bucs are going on this run because their offense, they were already doing that pretty much. Their defense actually went from terrible to pretty solid somehow, and Devin White was a huge reason for that. So that's why he gets 3. But the top 2 are pretty obvious. They're closer than most people think, but Nick Bosa, impact player. That's the key words there. Impact player, and really helped his team. And you could argue the best defense in football, and that's maybe the guy leading the way out of the pass rushers. For the comeback player of the year, Ryan Tannehill, I think, is the pretty obvious choice. I think 1 and 2 are pretty much took it. I think there's really just two options here because Jimmy Garoppolo missed pretty much all of last year, we'll call it. And what he was able to do, what he was able to come back to, was ridiculous. So, I mean, you could definitely argue Jimmy Garoppolo there, and he's proven a lot of people wrong, too. Niners fans believe in him, but there's a lot of people that kind of really unsure about him. He's proven a lot of people wrong, but, I mean, Tannehill's got to be the guy, a guy that's just playing lights out, and it's a comeback, a comeback player in just so many ways. You think maybe he's going to be a career backup, based off his performance, So I mean, I guess it's an improvement of his play by an insane amount, and I mean, you just don't expect a whole bunch from the guy. You expect him maybe to be the backup. Mariota's got to be the better guy, and it's just out of nowhere, kind of just getting thrown into a bad situation, which is makes it even harder when you get thrown into a situation like that. It wasn't going good for the Titans. It could have been a lot worse, but it's just that much more impressive. And this guy, he looks like a Pro Bowl quarterback right now when he looked like a mediocre at best quarterback before. So I went with Ryan Tannehill there, Jimmy Garoppolo the obvious second. Then third, I went with Dalvin Cook. You look at, it's tough with him because now he's hurt again, but I think it was more the Vikings playing it safe and kind of holding him out, and now he'll play here in the playoffs. But you look at, I guess it's on two levels as well because he was hurt a lot last year, and when he did play, there wasn't a whole bunch of production. So then you see him this year end up being one of the better backs in football. Crazy production. So, and he really helped the Vikings. I think it helped the Pat. Obviously the running back playing that good helped the running game get going. But again, I think that helped the pass game to get going even more too. So, big year for him. Hopefully he can stay healthy though. That's still obviously the concern. Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, the comeback kids. Coach of the year, I think this is an obvious choice here. And, you guys voted differently. I believe we'll go over that video. It's on the other channel. I know you guys had a different number one. So I guess you'll disagree that it's an easy choice for me, but it was an easy choice. I think Kyle Shanahan's number one, hands down the coach of the year. You look at the Niners last year to this year, and most people just first glance were like, okay, they didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo last year. They got him this year. But I look through that right now because it just feels like it's a similar system, but the system feels just so good. There's a number of guys getting hurt. Anybody that gets thrown in there, the offensive line, the receiver position, wherever it may be, the running back position, wherever it may be. We've seen Kittle out for a bit. We've seen Juszczyk out, which is a huge part of their offense. They still succeed. It really does, as long as they have guys that kind of fit their style of play, fit their system and, I guess the mindset, of just being football players in their eyes, they can play. They can play in this system because it's a very good system. And Jimmy Garoppolo, he improved big time. He improved big time, too, in this system. We've seen him, not a whole bunch of them in the past, but I don't care what his record was the first year coming into San Francisco. I don't care what the record was. He is playing at a way higher level this year than he was then, than he was ever. So, this system is ridiculous. It's a big reason why the Niners went from, I guess, worst to first, right? We can call it right now. So no-brainer for me that Shanahan is the coach of the year. John Harbaugh, number two. John Harbaugh is a great coach, so don't get me wrong here. But the main reason he's up here is because the Ravens have been the best team in football this year. They've surprised some people, with their offense. People doubted them with their quarterback that some people thought maybe he couldn't throw that well. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. But a guy like Lamar Jackson, it's, a lot of us have been saying for a while that guy can. It's kind of on him. It's Lamar Jackson. He goes out there, he plays his game, and you have to credit the coaching staff for, having the right game plan and calling the right plays and having the right system. But, it's mainly Lamar Jackson, and they have all their pieces too, but it's mainly Lamar Jackson, like that offensive line, those running backs, the tight ends, Mark Andrews, that deserve most of the credit in that situation for the Ravens. But because of the success and arguably the best team in football this year, John Harbaugh, for sure, number two. And tough choice for three. You can go with a number, guys. I went with Sean McDermott, the Buffalo Bills head coach, because going into this year, I mean, there's a whole bunch there's not a whole bunch of experience on this team, and yeah, a lot of young players, a lot of new players, new faces, a lot of changes, whether it's free agency and the NFL draft. And going into the season, how is Josh Allen going to be? It almost feels like kind of a mystery to the Bill staff, and they get to see him every day. And then going into the season, we saw Josh Allen kind of turn the ball over a bit, and then they kind of had to figure out, they see how good they know how good their defense is, and they got to kind of figure out how to split that. You don't want him to completely be a game manager, but they kind of tested that a little bit early in the year, and I think they found, that right area they need to be in, that right identity, that right game plan offensively they need to be in. And we're talking about a year of, it was a little messier in the year, even though they were still winning. They had to kind of test some things out, and they didn't really know their true identity, and they're still winning. And then they're able to get better and better, improve as the year goes along with the inexperience, and they're able to win. That's what it is at the end of the day. So with all that, the ability to win really speaks a lot for Sean McDermott here, and that's why he made the list for me. But I really like Kyle Shanahan. I think that was the no-brainer number one choice there. Next is the GM of the year, the executive of the year. Very, very tough between really the top three that you see here. But I went with John Robinson, Tennessee Titans, number 2. Brian Gutekunst at number 2 from the Green Bay Packers, and John Lynch number 3. It's real tough, but really between the top 2. John Lynch was great, but he's a great GM, but it's mainly the top 2 because I think the mistake sometimes people make when they look at executive of the year, they kind of go back years and look what they did in previous offseason, which is fair because some of those guys are starting to play and make an impact now. But and that plays a small part for me. But looking at what the teams did very, very recently, and you look at the top 2, you look at John Robinson and the draft class. Not even this past draft class, the year before too, but I'm mainly looking at this past draft. Look at that draft class. What he's able to, you take a risk on Jeffrey Simmons. It's a huge risk, and he comes back sooner than most teams expect with their medical staffs. The Titans, John Robinson, they know something. He's able to come back way quicker and make a huge impact way quicker. I think he's going to make an even more impact in the playoffs because I think he'll play more. And you steal A.J. Brown. You get pieces throughout the whole draft that are making an impact. A pick that I actually really like was DeMarcus Walker from Georgia, and that guy hasn't even get the chance to play yet, and I think he'll be pretty good for them. They get some late-round guys. They get some undrafted guys that are key for their team right now, and signing undrafted guys counts in this category. And then you look at the free agency, and you look at the trade for Ryan Tannehill, and that comparing the draft and the Ryan Tannehill trade, the ability to go out and get the guy. For you to trade for a guy, you have to have some level of trust, and the ability to trade basically nothing and have the ability to rework his contract and have the Dolphins pay. Part of that too. All of that. It's just there's a lot of work in that, and there's a lot of trust, and there's a lot of knowledge, and then to be right on top of it on everything here. All that combined, I think makes him number 1. And then Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM. The free agency of the year. Getting my defense MVPs, za'darius Smith, getting Preston Smith, having that draft class. Elgin Jenkins was huge for them. They get Adrian Amos back there at safety. He had a huge year. Pairing him with the draft pick, Darnell Savage, who was a raw prospect, a guy that's not supposed to be crazy right away, but he saw a little more in him, and he was good. So, just excellent off seasons here at the top. And then, the Niners have been building guys up. Like I said, I always talk about the Niners, and it just feels like a team. A lot of teams do, but it feels like it's a football team. I don't really know. Some people are probably confused by that. I really don't have any other way of explaining that, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I talk to the Niners, and that's what John Lynch built here over the last few years. And he made sure he got the depth because some of these good players can get hurt. It's unfortunate. They got some really talented guys, but also have injury concern, and they have the veterans like Richard Sherman. But they made sure they went out and got the pieces that fit. They have to fit. They have to be football players, not just football players. The football players, Niner players here, and they have to be solid depth. So mind-blowing with these 3 GMs, and there's more too. There's more, but these are the ones that I think were the top 3. I think it's pretty clear these were the top 3. It's just insane work by these guys. So those were the executives of the year for me. And then the best team, best regular season team, that's my 1, 2, 3 right there. I got the Ravens 1. This one's pretty obvious. I got the Ravens 1, the Niners 2, the 2 1 seeds. That's not really why I don't really pay attention to the seed. Just look at the dominance from the Ravens. They've been the best team all year offensively, and they've been top tier defensively. The Niners, most of the year, top tier defensively, and then they started to get towards the top offensively as the season went on. Very well coached team, very well balanced team. It's a football team. That's what I like to call them. And the Saints coming at number 3, even though they're a 3-seed team, a very high powered team. You see, in the beginning of the year, they won a bunch of games off defensive. Their defense. Lockdown defense one week, a playmaker defense the next week, getting turnovers, winning the games. They have a quarterback go down. The next quarterback plays just as good, plays at a high level, and then they're just developing even, crazier offensive games, performances. So to me, the Saints were the number 3 team on the year. The playoff teams, what matters most? Obviously, that might be different, but regular season here, those are my top 3 teams on the season. And then for the best offense on the year, pretty much similar things here. Ravens number 1. It's a new style offense. Lamar Jackson offense was dominant. You can't game plan for it. You can't stop it. You might know what's coming. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You just can't stop it. Best regular season offense. And then the Saints number 2, of course, high-powered offense. It's the same thing with the Saints. It's a totally different offense than the Ravens. With the Saints, they don't do anything really, well, the game plan really isn't tricky. I'll say they'll have some interesting plays sometimes with Taysom Hill, but there's no like RPO. It's just pretty much pro style offense here. With Drew Brees back there, even the same thing with Teddy Bridgewater. They're gonna throw to Michael Thomas a lot. They're gonna run the ball to their running back duo a lot. They want to throw to Kamara. There's really nothing special, but you just simply can't stop it. You can game plan for it all you want. You just simply can't stop it. Saints number 2 offense on the year, and the Chiefs number 3. I think they have more in them actually, but still a very impressive offense. It's a feared offense every time you step on the field, and they had some injuries too. To bounce back from the injuries and winning those high scoring games and to put up the points they were number 3 in my opinion. And then the last award was the best defense, the defense of the year. And this is actually very tough, but I went with the Niners. They went a little south at the end of the year with the injuries, but for the most part, most of the year, they won some big-time games because of their defense. And that may go unnoticed by some. Looking at a game like the Packers game, which they dominated because they put up a whole bunch of points, but the defense won that game. The offense helped win the game, but the defense won the game from the start. Just impact defensive plays. That's the key. That's the key from the Niners. Impact defensive plays, and that's what makes them the best defense. They have pass rush, they have linebackers, they have secondary. They can rush the passer, they can make play, they can be playmakers, they can make goal line stands, they can make teams go 3 and out at several consecutive drives. They got it. The Patriots, more that playmaking defense. Wish they had a little more pass rush, but that secondary is elite. And a very fun team to watch. Very interesting in the way they use their linebackers too. Well coached defense. And number 3 is the Bills. The Bills are very well balanced defense. It's hard to pick I guess if you had to, you pick the strength would be the secondary because the safety duo on top of one of the better corners in football, Tre'Davious White. But then you look at the linebackers though. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, maybe as good of a linebacker duo as you can get. So I mean, you can make the case. What's the best, secondary or linebacker unit there? And you look at, they could use a little more pass rush, but what they're able to do with their interior defensive linemen, and I've been, a believer in interior pressure is key. It's a game changer and could be a key down the stretch. And here we are in the stretch. The Bills have that. So it's a very impressive defense. I mean, it's tough to leave teams out like the Steelers. Just a dominant defense this year. Pass rush. People knew about their pass rush. Their secondary stepped up, was more impressive than people thought. And the Ravens improved as the season went on. Best blitzing defense in football. And they have a top-tier secondary. So the Ravens definitely just missed out in this category. And there's a couple other teams we can go all day here talking about other teams. But these are the 3 I chose. I chose the Niners. This was a tough one, though. It's a tough one because the Niners did go south a little bit at the end. But that's what I went with. Impact plays from the Niners defense. Get some... the number 1 defense in the year. So let me know your guys' thoughts. Most of you guys did vote for these same awards. I have that video up right now on our other channel, the Goat House Plus, link in the description and comment section of every single video. Please subscribe to that. Check out that video. If you didn't get the vote, tell me in the comments of either video who you would pick for each of these awards. Really enjoyed doing this one. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to both channels. Follow us on Twitter. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.